just take the lower ones. Just rip them off here. So you just rip it off like that. You can use canned tomatoes, you can use a little tomato paste, and slice it as thin as you can get it, just like you're making coleslaw. That's the idea. I make this when we're having a rice dish, because you get all that broth and all that flavor, right? So, you know, you've got some sort of meat, some sort of rice, but then you ladle some of this broth over your rice, and you're in flavor country. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and today I'm going to show you how I make collard greens. I've been teasing about doing a video on this for a little while. I grew them in my garden this year. They're a great crop if you like cabbage-like things. Very easy to grow and more resistant to a lot of pests than other greens, at least in my experience. So I got out in the garden and picked a few. I made a little clip of that, so I'll filter that into this video somewhere. All right, so here we are out in the garden, and I got these beautiful collard greens. Some of them got a little pest damage, you can see that. Some not so much, right? Really depends. Not a problem. That doesn't really bother me at all. You can treat them with various kinds of pesticides to keep that under control, or just put up with it. The process for harvesting is you just break off the lower ones, right? That's all. Break off the lower ones. If you see discoloration, you can see I've tossed them on the ground there. Just toss them on the ground, or put it in your compost pile or whatever. I just decided to let her lay. But yeah, you work your way up from the bottom, right? You can see there's different levels. You just take the lower ones, just rip them off, okay? Then you bring them inside for processing. I mean, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, let's see if I can hold this with my knees or something. So each of these, I just rip that part out. I leave that in the garden, right? That one don't have to bring as much into the house. It's all gonna compost anyway, and why not just leave it out here? So you just rip it off like that. That's all you got to do. But here's the finished product. I brought them into the house. I filled the sink up with water, lukewarm water, and I put them, you know, you rip the stems off and stuff. I just put them in the lukewarm water in the sink, and I squish them like this. You're breaking the fibers in them, but I don't think it really makes them any more tender. And you're just making sure they're really good and washed. And I keep doing that. I know it takes about 2 minutes until I see the water start to take on a hint of green sort of thing. That's my indication that I've done enough scrubbing sort of thing. And that's the finished product. That's how much I've got. This is a big mixing bowl, like what you make bread in or cake or that sort of thing. Okay, this is overflowing. That's about the right amount for the dish I'm going to make here. This is kind of like a stew. Collard greens are very fibrous, very tough, and they take a long time to cook. So this is easy to make, but it's got to simmer on the stove for hours. So this is not a meal you make on a day you get home after work. This is something you make on the weekend, or you can make it in the evening, but you're going to have it tomorrow. Okay, because it takes at least, in my experience, 3 hours simmering on the stove to get a texture that's nice to eat sort of thing. If you rush it, they're really tough. Okay, so ingredients. You need some garlic, you need some onion, you need tomato, you need some chili peppers, you need I find it makes a huge difference. You have some chicken stock. Beer is nice. I've got apple cider vinegar here. Any vinegar will do, anything acidic, really. And that's a little bit of bacon. A lot of traditional recipes, you put ham hocks in, sort of leftover parts of your ham. You have a ham dinner, you get the bone, you know, that sort of thing. Little bits of ham. But if you haven't got that kicking around, just use some bacon. And the more bacon you use, the better it tastes, right? So that's a question between you and your arteries and your doctor. So I'm going to turn the pot on here. We got the pot on medium heat, and we're going to add the bacon and onions to start. All right. This is 2 strips of bacon. I'm going to leave one aside because I need it for another thing I'm doing later on. And this is a very thick bacon, so like this is like 1.5 strips of bacon, but it's almost 1/4 inch thick, so it's pretty heavy stuff. So you're just cutting that up into little little slivers, diced. Okay. And I'm going to put about, put about 2 tablespoons of oil. This is olive oil. Just use whatever you got. Oil in the pot. That's just something to get this bacon going, right? We've got the bacon in there. Now let's prep our onions. So I got some onion green here and some onion. I just pulled these out of the garden. Everything in this dish has come out of the garden. This is my garlic, this is my onion, this is my tomato, this is my collard greens. Right? It's all coming out of the garden. The only thing I didn't grow in the garden was chicken stock. But I did make it. So I'm going to take these onion greens. I'll put them in too. Why not? They're onions, right? And then I'll prepare this part of the onion. All right, that's better. All right, so let's dice that up. I have the pot on a medium heat. Okay, so I'll throw these in the pot. And all we're doing is we're just browning the onions, wilting the bacon, that sort of thing. I'll add this a little bit later. Wouldn't hurt to have a little more onion, so I'll prep this one up as well. We'll just get that together there. I mean, you don't have to use these greens. It's probably not traditional, but in my book, these are onions. What am I going to do with them? You know, like they're nice in salads. There are lots of different ways you can use them, but I got so much of this stuff, I don't really need to preserve it, right? Okay, so that's our onion. This also, when the onion is a little bit brown and the bacon's a little bit brown, we'll throw this tomato in here. That'll sort of deglaze the pan. That just means that it'll get, you know, there'll be some sticky stuff stuck to the pot. And when we put this in, the water in it will make the sticky stuff come off. That's all that means. I mean, I'm sure there's a fancier way to explain it. You know, the finer, there's a name for all that. It's called frond or something like that. The brown stuff. That's just basically, you've got stuff stuck on the pan. All that stuff has flavor. You want that stuff to get unstuck so it can go into your broth and make everything taste good. All the flavors in that brown bit. Some of you watching my channel regularly, this year I planted a tomato. There's $1 a seed for these. It's like a beefsteak, right? But it's a hybrid version of it. So this is one of them. They can take on a little odd shapes, but I have to say, this is a very delicious tomato. I have a hard time, not just, like I had one of these for lunch today. I just cut it up and put a little salt and pepper on it, and it was basically, that was my salad, right? These tomatoes are, I can't remember the variety, I'll stick it up on the screen, but these are absolutely delicious. Okay, and tomato is a part of this dish, traditionally anyway. You can use canned tomatoes, you can use a little tomato paste, right? There's lots of different things you can do. I got a lot of tomatoes coming out of the garden right now. I'm swimming in them. So it makes sense for me to use my tomato. Right, this stew needs a bit of moisture anyway, so this is a good way to build it. I'm just going to run over and stir the pot for a sec. Okay, everything in the pot's coming along real nice. Notice I didn't put the garlic in with the onion and the bacon. That's because garlic can burn, and I don't really think, for a dish like this anyway, perhaps for some other dishes it matters, but I don't think for a dish like this, browning the garlic adds a lot of value from a flavor point of view. In some dishes that does make sense, but not for this one here. So I just add the garlic when the tomatoes go in. You can see how easily these come out of the skin. Now I'm going to mince these garlic, but you don't have to do it. It doesn't have to be a perfect job, because again, this is going to be cooking for hours, and everything's going to break up, and you know, it's a very forgiving dish in that sense, because you've got time, right? time's doing all the work for you. All right, so there goes the garlic. I'm gonna throw that in the pan right now. Got one more onion here. Might as well notice this one. I set this aside earlier when I was getting the kitchen set up for filming. I forgot all about them. So I'll throw them in the last second. All right, throw that guy in too. So you see I'm doing this all by hand, right? It's not taking too long. You don't need a food processor or anything like that, right? This is all prepped up. It's all about knife skills, honing your knife skills, keeping a knife sharp, fast hands, practice, practice, practice. Now I'll prep up these collard greens. So there's not much to it really. You just sort of trap it down really tight with your hands and slice it as thin as you can get it, just like you're making coleslaw. That's the idea. It's got a, you know, the leaves are such that you really, I'm sure there's some way you could do this in a food processor, but in the time you take the food processor and set it up, and in the time it takes to put it away and clean it and all that sort of stuff, I think I can hand process this in less time. And what else am I going to do while I let everything simmer on the stove top, right? Also, you're examining your leaves, like this one here, it's got a bit of a stem. Doesn't hurt to remove thicker stems that you missed. I mean, I'm out in the garden shucking the stems off, but you're gonna have little bits that just, you know, you're going for speed, so you're gonna miss little things. So when you're doing this final processing here, you're removing that stuff. It's all edible, it's all fine, but the more of that stuff you have in the dish, just the more, those parts are tough. And they take even longer to cook. I mean, just this fine, this here stuff, it's like leather. The texture is very, very tough, right? And it takes a while to cook. So the stems take even longer. So yes, they have a nutrition value, but I think they're better off in the compost pile. If you got chickens or pigs or whatever, feed it to them. They'll probably love it. They're rabbits, I guess, right? Any herbivore could eat that just fine, but I'm not an herbivore. I'm a omnivore. Okay, let's go have a look at that pot. All right, so here we are. You can see it's, I don't know if I turn the light on will improve things or make them worse. We got a little bit of brownings here. But not quite where I'd like it to be. I'm going to give this another couple minutes and then we'll come back and do the rest. We're almost done. We're almost done the sort of hard part of making this meal. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We got some decent browning going on there now. It's not like, you know, completely, but you can see a little bit of gold there. That's enough. Now you can add like up to, you know, it really depends on your personality and who you're serving this for. A whole teaspoon, half a teaspoon. We're going to have this with a fairly spicy dish, so I'm just going to put half a teaspoon of chili peppers in there. You can use hot sauce, you can use whatever, right? You could anything. But a little bit of heat's good. A little black pepper as well doesn't hurt, just to give it a peppery flavor, but not too much heat. That might have been half a teaspoon there. And of course we need some salt. So I would say, I don't know, at least half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, now I'll add all of these. Stir it around a little bit. Anything that's stuck on the bottom, that deglazing I was talking about. Anything that's stuck is going to come off with that. The house smells so good right now, just the garlic and the onion and the bacon. Now, you can turn the heat way up and give that a hard simmer if you want, right, to try to maybe brown the tomato to build flavor. I'm in a rush today, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start adding these greens. We put a lot of greens in here. I mean, this takes a while to cook, so you might as well make a lot, right? The amount of collard greens we're making here This is enough to have as a side dish for like maybe 2 or 3 meals, at least 2 meals, at least 2, maybe 3, depends on how much everybody eats. So I'm almost going to fill the pot with these, but they'll wilt down. Okay, so when this is all cooked, the pot, even though the pot's going to be full, I'm going to put the greens until the pot's full. When it's all cooked, the pot will be half full, right? Because these will just wilt down. You can see as I push that down, right, I'm taking some of the air out of that. Not as much as it seems, right? It was almost full. I'm going to put one more handful in, that'll be it. All right, that's all of it. Okay, so just stir that around a little bit. You got some real heat in there. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of vinegar. Again, quarter cup of beer is good with this. You just want a little bit of acid. It just helps with the building of the flavor. But I would, beer's better. I just haven't got any on hand today. Now we got about 2 cups of stock here. You can add more stock. Just, I would say for this dish you need at least 2 cups of stock. There's an amount of water that's the right amount of water. If you don't have enough water, it burns on. If you have too much water, too much liquid, it's sort of watered down. So I'm gonna say I need another cup, I'm gonna guess. All right, that's about a cup right there. So for me, I add water until when I push it down, see how you can see the water sort of gathering on top? So I know that there's, and at least I think, I think there's enough water. If I just move this around and make sure there's nothing stuck on the bottom, just sort of probing with the spoon, and there isn't, everything's fine. Now I just bring everything down. You got the heat turned right up. I bring it to a boil, making sure everything's covered. Then once it comes to a boil, I put this lid on, reduce the heat to simmer. That's about, 1/4 power, my estimation. And then you just let this go for hours. Right, it's 3 o'clock right now. I'm not going to eat this till 6. Okay, so it takes a while, but we've done all the work, right? That took like, 15 minutes to put together, sort of thing, right? Maybe every half an hour or so, I just move the spoon, move everything around. You're helping the different ingredients get married together, right? The tomato, the garlic, the bacon, right, and the flavor of the chicken stock. There's lots of different ways to make this. I didn't grow up. This is a southern United States food. Although it mimics, there's dishes all around the world that are similar to this, especially in Africa. I'm not an expert on these things, so feel free to write an essay in the comments explaining what the true origins of collard greens are. Anyway, this is the way I make it. If you meet me 5 years from now, I'll make it a little bit different. If you meet me 10 years from now, I'll make it a little bit different. But this is how I make it. I make this when we're having a rice dish, because you get all that broth and all that flavor, right? So you've got some sort of meat, some sort of rice, and you put a bunch of these greens on the side, on the plate. But then you ladle some of this broth over your rice, and you're in flavor country, right? So that's what you want. If I had some ham bone in here and all that sort of stuff, that'd be even better. Man, that would be great. I love all that stuff. I can't get enough. For that matter, you can add sausage to this, or chorizo, or whatever, right? It's a very flexible sort of dish. Anything that's got that savory, smoky taste, that's what you want to add to this to increase the flavor of the broth. A combination of the chicken and that smoked meat and thyme. Time to make the collard greens tender. Okay, so I'd say we're pretty much at a boil now, or pretty darn close. So you get the gist of it, right? This is the dish. This is all you have to do. From now on, we just reduce the heat to about 1/4. We put the lid on and let it simmer for 3 hours. That's it. Just wanted to show you what this collard greens looks like an hour in. All right, so see they're simmering. I got this on. Oh shoot, we steamed up there. Yeah. No camera correction. All right, so we're simmering. You can hear the sound. Nothing stuck on. You can see that despite the fact that we added only 3 cups of water, and this was right to the top with collard greens, it's all shrunk down now. Right, so that's all the liquid we need. There's a lot of recipes they call for a ridiculous amount of liquid, but I think if whatever the pot is, if you fill the pot to the top with the cut up greens, and then you add about, you know, half a pot's worth of liquid sort of thing. Also, liquid's going to come out of the greens, right? You added a bit of salt. That's going to pull liquid out of the greens. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so it's just kind of like just a sloppy stew. Okay, but it is a good flavor, but it takes hours. It's only 4 o'clock. This is going to be ready till 6. It's just the way it is. But this is great. You got about 3 meals worth of greens here. You know, two for sure, maybe 3. All right, so all that's done now. I just got to clean up the kitchen. That part of my meal for this evening is done. Now I'm just going to make a nice rice dish. I'm actually going to make jambalaya. Maybe I'll make a video on how to do that one of these days. But collard greens, they're a really easy green to grow in the garden. We had an exceptionally dry, exceptionally hot summer. A lot of people had difficulty growing things in their gardens. The only problem my collard greens had was pests. Everything likes them. But in terms of growing, they grew great, right? They're like 3 feet high and just producing and producing and producing, and I've probably hardly watered them at all. They're really good at hot, dry conditions. Probably why they're so popular in the southern United States. So collard greens, I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Check out my articles at maritimegardening.substack.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden, have fun in your kitchen. Thanks for watching.